Okay, we would like to call this meeting, for the last CIC meeting for 2024 to order. I officially call it to order. CPS Energy staff, will you conduct the roll call, please?
Yes. Hi, good morning. District 3, Diana Aguirre Martinez. Present. District 4, Frank Gonzalez. District 5, Julian Villarreal. District 8, John Kelly. Here. District 7, Adelita G. Cantu. Here. District 9, Tom Corser. District 2, Lawson Picasso. District 1, Richard Farias. Farias. At large, Andra Clapsaddle. At large, Stephen Bonnet. District 10, Valerie Alvarado. At large, Bob Zapata. At large, Aaron Stein. Q1, Christopher Fullerton. Q2, Sarah Villarreal. Q3, Frank Dunn. Q4, Peter Onefre. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I now recognize Christina.
We miss Maria.
Oh, did we?
I'm so sorry, Maria. Molly, did we miss Maria Nelson? No. Will you write her in, please? Sorry.
Okay, the roll call's been amended. All right. Ready? Okay, now we're going to have Christina, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, Chair, do we have quorum? Oh, yes, do we? Matt, can you verify that we have quorum? We have quorum. Thank you. All right, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could get you to please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. We'll now have the safety tailboard by Elena Ball.
Good morning, everyone. At CPS Energy, safety isn't a priority, it's a value. So we want to ensure everyone is safe and prepared in the event of an emergency. So at each of our meetings, we conduct a safety tailboard, which essentially assigns ownership of specific emergency response actions to dedicated people in the room. So I'll first remind everyone of our nearest exits. In the event of an emergency, we will exit out the doors to my left, your right, and go out into the parking lot. That is our primary muster point or collection point. So first up, I'll ask this of the CPS Energy team. Molly, would you be willing to dial 911 in the event of emergency? Great. Matt, will you direct emergency responders should they arrive? AED. Anna, would you be responsible for AED? CPR. Rick Luna, would you be willing to respond for CPR? And then I will take fire extinguishers in the event there is a fire. Present hazards, it appears that predominantly in the room, present hazards are bags, chairs. So take care if you do walk around the room. We want to ensure you have a safe meeting and can get back home to your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. We're going to be opening the floor to any public comments. I'm going to turn it over to Christina for that.
Thank you, Chair. Public comment provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on posted agenda items for this meeting. We will invite registered speakers to speak. They may only address the committee on CPS Energy related business listed on the posted agenda. Speakers should state their first and last name, the organization or group they represent, and the agenda item on which they will speak. For this meeting, we have one in-person speaker. Each speaker, or our speaker, will have 2 minutes to speak. Thomas, will you please cue the timer? And I'd like to invite Ana Trevino, our speaker for today, who will be speaking on Horizon 2050. Thank you for being here, Ms. Trevino.
Hi, hello. My name is Ana Trevino, and I'm an advocacy and field organizer with Texas Rising. We are a civic engagement organization focused on empowering young people of color. I'm here today because I'm talking about current and future CPS Energy policy and goals. I'm demanding that CPS Energy say no to more rate hikes for the upcoming year, especially since with the extra $26 million City Council has provided back to you, San Antonians have had 2 rate hikes back-to-back within the last couple of years. One in March 2022 for 3.85%, and again in December 2023 for 4.25%. These rates disproportionately overburden working class and low-income residents. Texas Rising is concerned about this issue because CPS Energy ongoing utility policies fails to invest heavily in renewable energy to combat the ongoing climate crisis and unfairly impacts those who live paycheck to paycheck. According to the San Antonio Express News, CPS Energy plans to spend $1.3 billion for transmission and generation projects over 5 years for more data centers, which ratepayers will pay for. Instead, you should be focusing on policies that benefit the public, like transitioning to completely renewable energy in the upcoming years, lifting the utility burden on people during the times of weather crises, and preventing continued rate hikes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. We appreciate you. We're now going to hear from our subcommittee chairs and one of our subcommittee vice chairs with our subcommittee executive summaries. We will start with Power and Technology, and that is Mr. Peter Onfray.
Thank you, Christina. So on behalf of our chair and our committee, Steve Bonnet, we had the briefing, of course, on the renewable products and the Vision 2050. And the feedback was expanded interest in how the customers will engage with the product, as well as how the impact to renewable energy generation, how it would impact the current renewable energy generation, if it would increase it, and the consumption in the community. So the subcommittee further communication with community sources regarding the revenues. So basically, are these funds going to be utilized to advance more programs for renewable products? And that was one of the points that was asked. At this point, that wasn't definite, so it was a point that needed to be considered, the benefit. And one of the presentations, one of the analogies from the presentation that was provided, I thought really gave a good overview of the program being a rock and roll marathon that you participate in, that it's a benefit that you support that cause, and the cause itself is being benefited. And you run in the program, or you run in the race, and you contribute to that cause, and so you're benefiting it. Because the question, one of the concerns was, why do we have to pay for something that everyone's going to benefit for? And I thought that was a good analogy to show that it's advancing that particular cause of renewable energy for those that are participating in it. But there's no direct benefit back to the customer. It's going to cost you to do that. So I thought that was a good explanation for the why it's being introduced. And it's a revenue generating product. So I think that needs to be clarified. It's not like a step program where you get the benefit from the actual participation. And for Horizon 2050, we acknowledged it was a general framework. So coming in that it wasn't specific. The framework was being presented, but that more specifics on how the framework goals would be measured and encourage consideration for the most vulnerable and energy burdened citizens during the planning process. And that concludes the summary.
Thank you, Peter. We'll now ask Lawson Picasso, who is our subcommittee chair for Rates, Finance, and Business, to deliver her subcommittee report.
All right, good morning. So I don't have a copy of the agenda from that meeting in front of me, but I can go off the cuff because I want to first just thank the CPS Energy staff for hearing us this last meeting and allowing us to break up and really discuss the Horizon 2050 plan, as well as the LCP and solartricity and windtricity plans in our smaller groups, so we can be able to have more robust conversations and really bring together a comprehensive structure to how we see things. So since we had already discussed this, that was I think our third conversation with you guys. It was more of a our conversations were a little bit more brief, just kind of fine tuning some things. So really and truly, my summary is just trying to offer some gratitude for the conversations that were had, and thank you for hearing us out on that. So I look forward to today's presentation, so where we can, hopefully sign, seal, and deliver it, right? And in addition to that, we also had our elections for our subcommittee vice chair, to which my dear friend Bob was voted for my vice chair. Yes, voluntold. So I will keep this brief, since we had, like I said, this was a conversation that was ongoing for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Lawson. We'll now hear from Richard Farias, who is our subcommittee chair for Customer Relations and Communications.
Thank you. Had a really nice subcommittee meeting involving the customer team and the marketing team for the Customer Relations and Communications Subcommittee. Appreciate everybody who was there. Appreciate Tom Corser, who I know will be joining us soon, and he was volunteered also as the second to help with this committee, and appreciate his input always. We talked a lot about the solartricity and windtricity programs, of course, and the rebrand, relaunch, and reintroduction, and provided a lot of wonderful feedback. I appreciate all the members of the subcommittee to provide that feedback, essentially to help make sure that CPS Energy customers are able to really understand those products, the premium products, the impact that they could have by opting in, and really just brainstorm some really nice ways to kind of, I think, help with the marketing and communications with that. Same thing with the LCP Green, enabling large commercial customers to work with CPS Energy in a large-scale way with renewable resources, and encourage the team to look at benchmarking with comparable products for peer utilities and other municipalities. Again, great overview of Horizon 2050. We provided input on that as well, and excited to see what we have with that now, today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. With the chair's permission, I'd like to move on to the presentations. Thank you, Chair. We'll now hear from Elena Ball, our Chief Strategy Officer, who will talk to us about Horizon 2050.
All right, good morning. My name's Elena Ball. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for CPS Energy. This morning, I'm going to share continued feedback that we've received related to our Horizon 50 framework, and we'll share some initial observations that we've had that are going to go into really changing and shaping the framework. So the slide deck that I have is similar to what you saw at your subcommittee reports. I'm going to share some updated engagement results. I'll bring up the framework so that you can recall where we're at, and then talk about where we are in the process, as well as describe some of the elements of the framework that we're likely going to make adjustments to based on the feedback that we've received, not only from the CIC, but the broad feedback that we've had from the community. So we've continued to be out in the community, as well as having online survey results. I'm going to run through some statistics just to share with you all about the volume and the nature of the feedback that we've received. From a survey perspective, we've received, as of yesterday, we've received 3,244 survey results. Just for those of you who served on either the rate advisory committee or the committees that have looked at our power generation plan, back in 2023, our power generation planning survey results were about 1,268 respondents. So we've had really robust and larger feedback than we had during that activity. We also have had face-to-face focus groups. And so we've had 576 face-to-face focus groups, specifically with our customers of all sizes, from residential customers to small business to our very largest customers. On our quantitative survey that we partnered with our BaseLice, which is our survey entity, we had 500 participants participate in the quantitative survey. We've also had quite a blitz on social media. Our Horizon 2050 webpage has received over 21,000 webpage visits. Social media, we've had over 146,000 social media impressions. We've had 12 news stories, and we've had 16 CPS Energy speaking engagements. Our paid media, such as our tele town hall that Rudy and I conducted, as well as our public power promo, combined had over 5.6 million media impressions. We've also been really grassroots about it. We've conducted a number of community pop-ups. We've had 4 events that were at various parks throughout the community. And then we have conducted a number of outreach activities. We've had 84 events and have canvassed all districts relative to Horizon 2050. So I wanted to share that. Again, continued consistent themes have been that reliability is a top priority. Our customers are very clear that they want to ensure their energy services are always on. Major event restoration is also critical. It certainly, Uri still lingers in everyone's mind as it should, and certainly recent hurricanes that have impacted other parts of the state have resonated with customers, and so building a reliable and a resilient system that can bounce back during major events is really important to our customers. Affordability and cost is also very important. These two consistently ranked as the #1 and 2 priorities over and above any other attribute relative to CPS Energy. We have consistently heard that managing affordability and keeping rates affordable is really key to our customers. We've also had, especially with some of our larger customers, a focus on continued partnership, helping our customers, but certainly some of our large customers, they're seeking partnership, innovation, and continued transparency for their growing power needs. And there's a strong desire for flexibility and options, which is actually timely that Rick Luna and Anna are going to be presenting on new products and services that we're continuing to develop and roll out. It really speaks to what our customers are asking for. Sustainability is an important topic. It does evoke diverse viewpoints. But both our qualitative and our quantitative surveys indicate that it is important. But again, the top priorities we're hearing resoundingly from our customers are reliability and affordability, are head and shoulders the top 2 priorities. We certainly see demographic and geographic trends. Younger people tend to put sustainability a bit higher, rank it high, as well as there are geographic trends within our service territory. We see a higher propensity to rank sustainability a little bit higher in the northern parts of our service territory. But over and above all of that, our customers are seeking more tools and tips to conserve energy, right? And that folds directly into affordability. Some other key themes that we received are that safety is really important, and included a strong recommendation to include safety. And so we have actually already done that in the framework. Also some themes around innovation and leadership. As we set out the goals that we ultimately will be striving for over the next 2.5 decades, really to set them as aspirational, stretching us to be a leader. And consistently, and we heard it from the subcommittees as well as consistently as we've engaged with the community and our stakeholders, are make it simple, make this really simple. We in the utility space, those of us who've been in the utilities for a long time, I have been almost 2 decades, we have a lot of lingo, right? And it is a complex business. But at the end of the day, our customers want to ensure they have energy when they flip the switch or turn on their stove or run their business. And so I think that's really salient feedback. So this is the framework that we have been presenting to the community and to each of you. I will share just some notional feedback. We're going to be meeting with our board and as a senior leadership team to refine this framework based on all of the robust feedback that we've had. I will start with the vision statement. You know, it's a really simple thing, but we've heard, gosh, we really want to emphasize community partnerships because CPS Energy is unique. We're not just a a company that produces energy. We have a symbiotic relationship with our community. You know, as the utility can continue to serve our customers better, be more efficient, we actually can invest and help our community as well. You know, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our customers can conserve energy, that they can grow in this community, and we're really tied. So for the vision statement, we likely will be making it a little bit more active and just changing verbiage to empowering our community for generations, you know, as opposed to it being more static. We consistently heard also that energy is important, you know, the term energy, but we need to reinforce that we have both electric and gas. Because of the dynamic nature of the electric business, we tend to spend more energy and more effort talking about our electric side, but our gas system is so important too. You know, homes that have both electric and natural gas services on average have 25% lower bills, right? Natural gas really helps customers conserve energy. So as we refine this, we're going to make sure to reflect both the electric and gas lines of energy business in our mission statement. From a reliability standpoint, again, this was probably a simplification. This is a perfect engineer's description. Develop an agile and resilient system to meet changing demand and evolving customer needs. We all were like, we love that. That's great, you know, because we're a bunch of engineers. And so, but what we heard consistently is, can y'all simplify it? Use simple language, right? And so as we're thinking and refining it, we're thinking of a really simple concept of always on, right? Our objective, and as we invest in our system and as we move forward, and whether it's building additional resilience in our system, whether it's investing in our system to literally be more reliable, investments in the distribution system, the transmission system, we're marching toward a more and more reliable system. And our ultimate goal is to always be on. So you'll see some refined and very simplified language there. Sustainability. We got a lot of feedback on word choice, but also kind of what we're up to. And we've gotten a lot of feedback that clean and cleaner really resonate with our customers. A lot of folks, when they hear sustainability, they're not really sure what that means. Does that mean all renewable energy? Does that mean you know, low carbon resources? What does that mean? And so really trying to simplify the language around clean, just the concept of clean. And we've also gotten feedback relative to that statement, so we'll be working to simplify it. And at the end of the day, what we're going to try to convey with all three of these are just simple phrases that speak to the aspirational goals that we're headed toward. Competitive price, also, we received quite a bit of feedback on just the term competitive. What does that mean? You know, who does CPS compete with, or who are you comparing yourself with? And it wasn't real clear. And so we will likely be making adjustments to competitive price because it's really about what we heard consistently is what customers want are, you know, they want affordable bills, but they want good service. And so likely under this header, we'll de-emphasize competitive, but also focus more holistically on highly reliable and excellent service as well as affordability. And so for competitive price, we're playing with the words, but we definitely heard that was confusing. Moving through financial resiliency, really what we're speaking to is making sure that the utility is healthy, because as the utility is healthy, we're able to reinvest and ensure that services are reliable, that we can serve our customers well and keep the costs of borrowing down. We have a very capital-intensive business, but also ensure that we're providing strength and good returns to our city owner. And then team and business excellence. We are continuing to work on this, but essentially we want to make sure that we operate with excellence. We want to internally, with our systems, our tools, and our teams, work to become a much more efficient organization. We want to work to manage out waste and cost and serve our customers well. And so those are a summary of the feedback that we received and a little bit of a preview into the areas that we're going to change in the framework. Some of it's words, and some of it is really how we're focusing. And so as a reminder, this is where we're at in the process. We are doing key stakeholder engagements. We did meet with the City Council. We're meeting with you all, and we are continuing to hold meetings with the rest of our stakeholders through the end of this year. And then early 2025, we'll be coming forward with a resolution with our board, and then the next steps are actually doing the deep work of actually building our plans, identifying the measures we're going to have, and mapping our strategic plan into this framework. And this will guide our future planning, whether it's what types of generation that we have, how much we're investing in our gas system, our distribution system, and how we're doing all of that in a manner that can keep bills affordable. So with that, I will conclude my remarks and take any questions that you all have. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for this again, and thank you. I'm glad to hear that we had some good conversations during our subcommittee meetings and helped to really refine the structure of this. I'm married to an engineer, so I understand exactly what happens when lingo becomes the best of you and acronyms are your favorite friend. And he's laughing next to me because he's also an engineer, and we talk about it all the time. So when you're talking about developing the strategic plan, does that include going and getting community input to help shape what that plan is going to look like as well? Just kind of walk us through what that's going to look like.
Right. I'll use an example around. Let's talk about when you think about the pillars, we're really talking about as we march toward 2050, having energy services that are always on, that are affordable, and that are clean. And so I know one of the points of feedback from this committee was where does CAP fit in on all of this, right? And so as an example, as we develop plans, we'll be setting milestones for 2030, 2040, and then the ultimate objective, which we're striving for in 2050. And so as an example, for CAP, we have express carbon intensity goals in CAP for 2030, 2040, and 2050. We recognize the world is dynamic, right? We are making bold steps to achieve those milestones, but we are seeing unprecedented growth. But that'll give us a guidepost as we formally, put in our plans those specific milestones as we're conducting our generation plan, for example. That's going to be, that's a key component of our strategy, looking at what our resource mix is and what that carbon intensity looks like through those periods. And so we will, as we do for that example, as we conduct generation planning, that is robust with community input as we go through those practices. Reliability, kind of a similar thing. We haven't landed on a metric yet, but right now we measure SAIDI, which is basically how long are customers out when they're out. We may have a combination of metrics, how frequently are they out, how long are they out, how many, multiple outages has a customer experienced, but the ultimate goal is to drive those out and always be on. So there's outcomes, and then there are going to be activities to close the gaps toward those outcomes. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the presentation, Elena. On the priorities, right, reliability and affordability, and wanted to ask about the STEP program and the value. Of course, the 12 years that it was in place, it kept us from building a power plant.
That's right.
Huge. And I know when we went on the rack and reinstated the new updated version of the STEP, that it was we're 2 years in, and I know there'll be a report coming. The value of that, I think, is really, when we were doing the generation planning, we factored it in and saying it's a fifth fuel, right?
That's
the demand response. So the question I have is, of course, when you start to get into the weeds of the planning and the strategic planning specific to that, much like we did with the energy generation plan, I'm sorry, can you provide us with, and I know at the October board meeting, there was a request for a heat map of how each district is utilizing the STEP program, because that was part of the back and forth, is the benefit, because energy efficiency, I think, is the best way to achieve affordability, and STEP does that. And so putting that on steroids in those vulnerable communities is important. So I wanted to see if we could, as a as a CIC, be able to have that information so we can kind of track with you as we develop that part of the plan.
Yes, we absolutely can. We recently gave a STEP update to the board, and we did develop a map by district of the use of the program, of who is actually engaging in STEP, and we absolutely will provide that to you all. If you will let me embellish for a moment as we think about this plan. So when we think about STEP, we, as a vertically integrated utility, we're investing on the demand side to do a couple of things. One, drive out energy use, energy that we don't need to produce, and also drive out demand for peaking purposes so that we can keep our costs low for everyone. Anytime that prices lift or demand lifts on our system, when we can reduce our demand, we lower the costs that are assessed to us as a load-serving entity from ERCOT. Everyone benefits. It's not just me in my home with my thermostat being, ticking up a couple of degrees. Certainly it helps me on my retail bill, right? But it helps the whole system. And so dollar for dollar, for every dollar we've invested in STEP, we've got a validated savings of $3. So it's one of the most productive ways that we can exercise our dollars. Now, as you drive more and more demand out, that you get kind of out on that tail of return, but we continue to see energy and efficiency and demand reduction or demand response as a key part of not only helping with sustainability, because when you drive out energy use, those are megawatt hours you don't have to produce, which creates emissions, and it also impacts affordability. As customers' homes become more efficient, or their businesses, and we can, again, help them save, especially during those peak times, it helps manage affordability. I will also say I think there's a tighter reliability. ERCOT's going to be tight. You all are incredibly educated and informed people. I know you're reading about all the interesting things that are happening in the state of Texas and in our industry, but as we're seeing phenomenal growth, the grid's going to get tighter. We're going to see more and more periods of tight grid conditions, which will be elevated prices and reliability challenges. So to the degree that CPS Energy can maintain flexibility, not only on quick starting generation resources to help out in those tight periods, but also have demand response programs that can shave use during those periods, it also helps with reliability of the grid. So I know I answered a bunch of stuff that you didn't even ask, but I can talk about this stuff. I'm a nerd, so I can talk about this stuff all day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
So in these public engagement meetings and sessions on the topic of sustainability, are you educating the public about the fact that the city of San Antonio has a climate action and adaptation plan with, stipulated emissions reductions targets?
Certainly, CAP has been central to a lot of the conversations. We also are generally asking people, in some of our focus groups, we're on a path to a cleaner energy future and willingness to invest in that, right? And how much and things like that. So we're not only talking about CAP, but we're also looking at, what is our customer sentiment around the pace and our path to a cleaner energy future. So one thing that we, in our strategic planning to date, haven't done is have those CAP goals explicit in our strat plan, but it has been key to our planning, right? So any of you who participated in the power gen planning process, remember we talked about CAP and how different scenarios would play out with that. So that is central to our planning.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what the engagement with the community is like in terms of things like sustainability. Also, what Peter said about the STEP program and the affordability. So there's an opportunity when engaging with the public not only to get feedback and input without prompting, right? It's like, what do you see as important? But there's also an opportunity to educate the public about things like the CAP, like the STEP program, things that exist that are already going on that they might not be aware of. They're in the conversations that I have, oftentimes the public, is not aware of things like the STEP program, which has been around forever, but people don't know about it. So I think, and I mean, we're already way over here in terms of the engagement. So, maybe there's not going to be another opportunity to do that. But that's why, I've been, very vocal about including these things that are already part of City of San Antonio policy. The CAP was adopted in 2019, so that was 5 years ago. Yet we're not seeing that in the Horizon 2050. You mentioned carbon intensity, but the goals, the targets in the CAP are not about carbon intensity. It's about emissions. So the reductions that were stipulated in the CAP are tons of greenhouse gas CO2 equivalent, okay, not carbon intensity. So that's something that needs to come through. And then on the issue of competitive price, this is something that I brought up in our subcommittee meeting last month. Competitive price is not synonymous with affordability. So, when I talk to people about it, they don't talk about competitive price because we're not going to get up and move to another part of the state because they might have, cheaper electricity and gas bills. It doesn't mean a lot to people who, we're living here, we're from here, we're not going to get up and leave. Competitive price, I think, is a slogan that is geared towards, business and corporate customers that are potentially thinking of moving here because we have, maybe somewhat cheaper energy than in other parts of the state or other parts of the country. So, CPS being a municipally owned utility where, we, the ratepayers, own, CPS, I think at the forefront it needs to be affordability for ordinary ratepayers and not competitive price.
Well, thank you for those three comments. If I could just share just a little bit, and that would really looking forward to your other questions. So relative to, when we conducted outreach, did we talk about our programs? Absolutely. The 84 in-person events, I'm looking down through the list. We were at everything from trunk or treat events to women in business to community and family fall festivals, senior citizens resource fairs, veteran fairs, and on and on. I mean, we have been canvassing the community and getting that robust, direct feedback. And our programs teams, not only for STEP, but all of our CPS Energy programs attended these events and use that as an opportunity to communicate and get enrollment in our programs. We absolutely want to use every voice, every opportunity to explain the benefits of STEP and again, all the other customer programs that we have. We are extremely pro energy efficiency and demand response. We're not, I've worked for investor-owned utilities. We are not motivated to production, right? We're motivated to serve our community. And, to the degree that we can lower energy use, lower demand, and offset other needs of the utility, that's wonderful. It helps our customers and it helps the utility with not having to issue debt. So I did want to let you know we had very robust engagement and we had multiple teams at each of these events communicating about our free energy audits, all of our rebate programs. So we did not, and we will not, lose that opportunity. Relative to sustainability and the CAP, that is going to be part of this framework. Clean energy transition is part of the framework. And then lastly, relative to competitive price, I mentioned it earlier in my remarks, but maybe it wasn't real clear. We did receive feedback, about the notion of competitive price, and that term didn't resonate with folks. And so you will see changes to that in the framework. So I really appreciate all of those comments.
So I wish KJ was here because I could pick on her, but maybe somebody else from the comms team and community outreach team can talk, because I think that this is brought up in a few times, and I'm glad that we bring it up again. But maybe there's an opportunity, since there's so many new folks on the committee, and I'm looking at my folks back here, Chris, Matt, Nancy, if we can maybe get an update on what the outreach looks like. But on average, how many events are you guys at a week?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Melissa Sorolla.
And I have another
VP
question, but I'll get to that. I wanted
Of
to talk this
corporate communications and marketing, and part of the customer strategy team with KJ. The latest stat is the team is out in the community at least 10 times a week. So there's multiple touch points, and we'll make sure that you all have information about the events going on in the various areas that you all represent. Elena did a great job of explaining the opportunities and how we use those to talk about everything from STEP to other energy efficiency programs to bill assistance. So there's a full calendar on our website that we'll make sure you all have too.
And I think that too, to the point of a presentation on this, I think it'd be really great for us to have more of a conversation of where these events are, on a map. Like I said, are we talking to folks on the south side, north, just kind of looking at that, because I know that you guys are working and you're everywhere. So I think it would be great for us to understand where you all are at, what those events look like, what that engagement and touch point looks like. So I am going to make the recommendation that at some point, because I know our next meeting's in January, and I don't know what that agenda is going to look like, but at some point that we do have a conversation with you guys, because I think it'll be for us who are supposed to go out and help with the engagement and getting awareness out, to see what you all are doing and how we can be secondary support. So thank you.
We'll take that as an action item and work with Chris and team.
Absolutely, thank you. And then my next question, we're talking about Horizon 2050. We kind of touched on it when we were introduced to this at the very beginning, but I think it'd be really good for us to also understand or see a benchmark or update on Vision 2027, since we are going to be about 2 years out from that, right? So to kind of see where we're at on that process, again, to my colleague's point of just, where are we at? What are like a litmus test per se, right? Because 2050 seems very far, but 2027 feels like tomorrow. So we can get an idea of kind of, what the impression has been from the community, what you guys are seeing as far as how are you guys meeting those goals. So we have an idea of the expectations that we should be looking at when we're looking at Horizon 2050 as well. I think that seeing that comparison would be really, really good for us to kind of have an update on that as we move forward.
Yeah, that's actually very timely. We're actually right now preparing a presentation for January as we work with our board to set our upcoming, because reminder, our fiscal year starts in February, Feb 1. So in January, we'll be going to our Board of Trustees to present our business plan, which includes our budget, KPIs, and we'll be revisiting the progress we've made so far for 2027 and what is ahead. And so that's timely. We'd be very happy to bring that to the CIC.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
I have a question. Thank you. Thank you again for always being so thorough, Elena. I really do appreciate it. So I sit on the subcommittee for business and finance. And so my question's coming from that side as it relates to the 2050 vision. So recently, as we know, a lot of us are reading, right? You're mentioning Browning was set to retire next year, right, the plant. So, and I believe we have 2 more set to retire in 2027 per our plan right now. So as it relates to generation planning, how are we, agree we are CPS Energy is here to serve our community, but it's also clear that we're part of a bigger picture. We're part of a bigger grid. We're part of the state of Texas and ERCOT. How do we then look at what their vision and mission and goals are as it relates to the state and the grid, and making sure that we are also, walking in parallel with them and aligning with the bigger needs of a state, so that we do not have a situation like we did a few years ago with Winter Uri.
That's a really, really timely and insightful question. We absolutely are in work to be in lockstep with ERCOT and with the broader state. We serve, just to talk about engagement, and I'll describe the specifics around our gen plan and how we are thinking about the near term. So we engage. We have members on all of the ERCOT subcommittees, committees and subcommittees. We're also part of transmission planning at the state level, and so our teams are part of those conversations. You're seeing some new interesting conversations around potentially introducing a new higher voltage system in Texas. We currently operate up to 345,000 volts in the system, and there is discussions going on in ERCOT about potentially putting in over the next several years a 765 system. That system would potentially, based on current plans, interconnect with our system, our regional transmission system. So we're heavily involved with all of the discussions. With the rapid growth, ERCOT is facing some of the challenges that we're facing, but they're facing them on just a much larger scale. And so, our decisions to retire assets such as Bronick that have reached, they've earned their AARP cards, right? I'd like to say that they're old, but they're basically my vintage. These are 60s and 70s, units. But they've reached, they've just reached end of life. And so this is going to be an ongoing conversation in ERCOT as these old assets roll off. The ability to build transmission and backfill generation at the speed, not only to replace that capacity, but also to keep up with the rapid growth, is going to be a real challenge. And so for us, I'll give a little example, right? When this last year, as we embarked on our gen plan, we had plans to build 2 combined cycles and peakers. We were approached a little bit more than a year ago about a competitive process to buy existing plants. We went through, and I'll give a big shout out to the terrific team that worked with my team. We went through due diligence and that competitive process, and were ultimately successful in competing for and being selected to buy the Corpus Christi and Laredo plants. And we bought those. Our gen plan on the build assets were going to be about $1.5 billion. We bought those assets for $785, and so fraction of the cost, same capacity. And it really allowed us to jumpstart our gen plan and help protect the market, but also help protect San Antonio. As a result, we've had over $200 million in additional revenue sales this summer, which helped defray that debt that we had to issue for those plants. So we're going to continue to think strategically, not only about staying ahead of our transmission build as natural retirements occur, but also how do we think about new generation sources. We've been very bold and have moved into solar and also storage. Here at 10:30, we're going to be announcing a new storage project with a longstanding partner, and we see all of these assets as critical to protecting prices in our community and helping support reliability at the ERCOT level.
Elena, we do have one more question, and then we're going to have to let Elena go because she has a press conference.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation this morning, and I always appreciate CPS being so visionary in all of the work that they're doing in strategic planning. Yesterday, I was reading in the Express News, there was an article there about Bronick and ERCOT saying that CPS was not able to close that plant, that we're going to have to repair it. And the one that really stood out was that this means it's going to increase the bills for everyone across the state of Texas. So with those things that happened in mind, and you have the strategic plan, now this is one part of the strategic plan that we can't meet because of what ERCOT and what you were saying, we're part of a larger system, larger grid. How does that impact what you guys are planning to do, and also the messaging to the community that, yes, there will be an increase, but we don't have any control over that increase. This will be for the full. So transparency I'm concerned about, but then also people in the community say, oh, yeah, this is just one more excuse to increase our bill. And that came out in the Express News yesterday, and the article, but the bottom line was that it does say that it's going to increase the bills.
So thank you for the question. So as we go about retiring plants, we go through a process of notifying ERCOT of our intent to retire. We have a requirement to do it in a pretty short window, but we, being who we are, we noticed them. We've been noticing them that these plants, as well as the upcoming plants, are going to be retiring based on our gen plan. The interconnection system in Texas is such that if, under certain conditions during those retirements, the transmission system can't reliably support moving power around, ERCOT has the authority to do something called a reliability must run contract to require that plant or those plants to run until the transmission is built to alleviate the congestion or the risk. So the ERCOT board took action to RMR, or reliability must run, one of the Browning units, Browning 3. And so for the next 2 summers, there are, based on ERCOT's modeling, if there were some transmission outages, there could be a situation that would converge that might result in a need to curtail load. And so in an abundance of caution, they want to ensure that we don't do that, and so they have initiated the RMR. Now, from a cost perspective, San Antonio does not bear all of that cost. The customers of CPS Energy do not bear all of that cost. The cost associated with opening, inspecting, and upgrading or repairing Browning 3, those costs will be negotiated and put into the contract with ERCOT, and the entire ERCOT transmission system will pick up those costs. We will be apportioned our share of the transmission system, which is a little bit more than 6%, and that will be until the transmission solution comes into play, which ERCOT believes will be about 2 years. So we'll run, like it appears we're going to run Browning 3 for potentially 2 more summers and then retire it. But this could occur again in the future. It could occur in other parts of the state based on the rapid growth that's going on. Yeah, and I'm probably going to phone a friend here about our comm plan around the RMR, but it's a cost that will be across the state. It won't be unique to CPS. But Melissa, if you have thoughts on that,
Thank you,
sorry to
Elena.
put you on the spot.
Well, I will say this is very early still. So I think once we have some good, solid numbers and what that could mean for customers, then absolutely we're going to talk about it. And you all will know as well so that you're prepared to answer some questions too.
Thank you so much, Elena. We appreciate you taking the time to be here today. With the chair's permission, we're going to move on to the next presentation, and that will be on renewable products. And we have Rick Luna, Director of Strategic Pricing and Cost Recovery, and Anna Lozano, Director of Technology and Product Innovation.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Clicker is up here. It is. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Lozano. I am the Director of Technology and Product Innovation with my partner in crime, Rick Luna, here. I lead the team that is charged with developing and implementing new products and services for our customers. And a key process in our step is stakeholder feedback. Because products are only as good as the customers who use them, right? We could think that we are developing something everybody wants and nobody participates in it, and we have missed the mark. We are a community-owned utility. We exist to be of service to our customers. And so stakeholder feedback is a key component in our process. And so I appreciate, Lawson, the kind words that you gave us, but really the appreciation is from us. We thank you for the opportunity, not that we're counting, but this might be the 4th time, that we come to the CIC in some capacity to share information on our initiatives and what we're thinking moving forward with regards to renewable energy products. And so there are only a couple of slides here today, really to recap what we heard. So here for a couple of reasons. One is to thank you. Thank each and every one of you. You represent different areas of our community, unique perspectives. I think Elena said it earlier, and she's right. Sometimes we are so close to this, and I will say I am not an engineer, but have spent my entire career around engineers, and they are very smart. But sometimes we're so close to it that we speak in acronyms and we have our own lingo and we think that everybody speaks the language that we do. And so when we get input from all of our stakeholders and customers, you help us identify blind spots. You help us remember that not everybody speaks energy, and we're probably lucky for that. And so we've taken your feedback and we've incorporated it. We've captured it here just to go through it. And I should say we have a detailed list of everybody's comments and questions, and we've already begun to incorporate it in the way that we're thinking about messaging these programs to our customers. And when we launch, all of the feedback will be incorporated. So we thank you, and we'll continue to keep this group informed as we move forward. So that is very big. So here's just some of the feedback, again, really high level, which we appreciate from a program perspective, right? We heard you loud and clear. Make it clear that these are optional programs. They're voluntary programs for our customers. And thank you, Peter, for the shout out for the analogy. I think everybody heard, I don't understand sports, but I could do running. And so we had that running analogy. They're optional, they're voluntary programs. Explain what it means for our customers and focus on what they're actually getting for participating in the program. So just be clear. Communications, make them more digestible. We should just always start with this because we know ourselves, but make them more digestible, easier to understand, cut down on the acronyms, and then communicate, right? What is our launch date? What is our goal? And so we will make sure, I think this came up in one of our committee meetings, is maybe Earth Day. Maybe that is a good day to target. Whatever day we decide to launch, we will ensure that the CIC knows about it and that we communicate that. Program goals, what does a win look like? How do we know if this is a good product, if there is demand for it, if customers appreciate it? What does that look like? And so, we're developing strategies around that. Do we have a goal? And then make sure that it aligns with our Horizon 2050. We heard, consider how they impact our low to moderate income customers. And if this isn't the program for that, ensure that we communicate the programs that are available for our LMI, low to moderate income customers, and what programs are available for them. And so again, we appreciate from a high level, these are the themes of the feedback that we heard. And so we appreciate that. And then specifically with regards to Windtricity and Solartricity, we heard a request for a map earlier today, also a heat map of current participants. We have about 6,000 customers participating today, so we will generate that. A goal for participation growth, and market the program in a language that customers understand. We speak in kilowatt hours, probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of folks. What does that mean in terms of dollars, which I think we all speak? And then explain the benefits to customers, something that's tangible. And so we talked about, an equivalency to the cars removed from the road or trees planted. And then LCP Green, rename it from Green Tariff. It does sound technical, even LCP Green, so there is work to be done there, and we look forward to sharing that, and then consider maybe a shorter term, maybe 3 years. And so this is the high-level feedback. A lot of the questions made us really think about and tighten up our messaging, and so we appreciate that. So just know that we are incorporating your feedback into whatever the final product will look like, and when we do prepare to launch, we'll ensure that we'll bring the CIC with us so that you know exactly what our plan is. So we really appreciate it once again. Is there anything else? That is it. So not that we're counting, this is the 4th time. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you, and each and every one of you, please know that your feedback is important to us. It is why we are here, right? You represent our customers, we are owned by our community, and our goal is to be of service to them. So thank you very much.
The last time we met, goal was to present this to the BOT on the 16th. Is that still the anticipated plan, or?
Yeah, no, I think we shared at the last subcommittee meeting that we took that off the slide. Yeah, just to take more time and make sure we incorporate the feedback. So it's not on the agenda for the 16th. It'll be, you know, mid to early next year that we get back to that.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good point. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I think you guys have reached your punch card limit and you get a free coffee at the end of this. Thank you guys so much. Truly, I've really appreciated, since again our subcommittee did see it first, and to see the evolution of where we've gotten to. It's been, you guys have really taken our feedback and been intentional with being able to input it in here. And I'm sure it's been frustrating that it's been like, we thought it'd be a quick yes and hoorah and let's move on. But I'm really glad that we were able to have some more critical conversations, because I feel a lot more confident in this when you guys start to present it to the larger groups. So thank you guys, truly, 4 times, that's enough.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Those are our 2 presentations, and now we're going to do elections. We are going to nominate a chair and vice chair for 2025. So I'm going to turn the program back over to our current chair, Diana Aguirre Martinez. But before she takes over, I just want to publicly thank you, Diana, for all that you've done this year. You've helped the staff. You've helped us put the CIC together, and it was a lot of hard work and a heavy lift, but you led it all, and we appreciate all of your efforts, so thank you.
Well, thank you. As most of you know, this is my last term on the CIC, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, met some wonderful people, learned a lot, and I just appreciate the staff, Rudy, who was behind the changes that we've gone through the past couple of months. It was an honor and a privilege, and I thank all of y'all for the experience. Okay, now we're going to open the floor for nominations. Now, keep in mind that no second is required, and the voting is going to be by voice vote. Once the nominations are complete, the nomination process will be closed, and after voting, we will declare the person that will be selected for each of the positions. Now, this is per our bylaws. I'm going to read them verbatim. The officers of the CIC shall be a CIC chair, a vice chair, and an immediate past chair, having served on the CIC for at least 1 year. The following positions shall be elected from the CIC membership for 1-year terms: chair and vice chair. The CIC shall elect its officers from the nomination slate or before the last regularly scheduled meeting of the CIC before the end of the calendar year. Okay, and now I will now open the floor for nominations for the position of chair for the CPS Energy CIC committee for 2025. And I would like myself to nominate Lawson Picasso. Yes. Well, that's a good question. Do they have to be present, Christina? No. Okay. Are there any further nominations? John?
I'm sorry. Well, I guess effectively this is sort of a second, but I would also like to nominate Lawson. I think she's proved she's got the experience because she's been on the board on our committee for a while, and she has, I think, a very dynamic personality. She's eloquent, and I believe she could be a great leader for us this coming year. We're still in the throes of trying to get everything with a new CIC format up and running efficiently, and I think Lawson would be the right person to be able to lead us through this year.
Anyone else have any nominations? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so right now we have Lawson Picasso for chair for 2025. Since there are no other nominations, I would like to have a motion to the effect that, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Sorry, I'm not going to make a nomination, but I would just like to point out the bylaws say that the chair and vice chair have to have served on the CIC for a year, but the CIC has not existed for a year. So this is something that we need to tweak because and it's not just this, there are there's other language in the bylaws that need to be tweaked. And I'm not bringing this up as like a point of order, I just as a comment so that we're aware that there's the language and then the reality.
Okay,
Because, you know,
Christina, are there any rules regarding the grandfathering of the previous nominations for under CAC versus CIC?
Yes, I'm here, Ashley Glotzer from the legal department. I would say the bylaws are like the CAC's bylaws. They were amended to change the two of the CIC, so I don't have an issue with the concern. There's also transition language at the bottom of the bylaws that we acknowledge that some of the changes would take some time to do. So I think, you know, we have some kind of looking at how we're going to transition. I think there's an expectation that we'll have to work through some of those issues as we continue.
Okay, so how do we clarify the current situation as brought up?
You know, I think if you guys want to do that, I think we could kind of work on that. I think the concept of the year being in there is that you're not putting somebody wholly new that may not have the background or the experience to do that. Currently, there's just a nomination for Ms. Picasso, who has been here for a year. So if there's a nomination
No,
for somebody
I
else,
think the way he was addressing it is because the CIC is not even a few months old
Right.
versus the CAC.
Yes.
And Lawson has definitely been on the board or on the committee for more than a year. But does that transfer over? Are we talking from August to now? You have to have been. How
Yes,
does that
and what I
apply?
was saying is that the bylaws are not like wholly new, right? The
Right.
bylaws were the CIC bylaws, and they were amended to change the name of this committee to the CIC. And there's also transition language at the bottom that provides for time to do the transition. So I think that, you know, you don't have to have been on the CIC for a year because it hasn't been in existence. I mean, they amended the bylaws in March. So I think the intent is what we're looking at here, and that's to nominate somebody that has the experience to be able to be the chair.
Any other questions regarding this issue?
So, Chair, to that point, can I consider a motion then to allow all members, since the CIC has been formally existing for however many months now, so that we clarify that point? So the motion being that since the bylaws currently says it needs to be existing for over a year, right? CIC has not existed technically for over a year. So the motion is allow all members to be considered for vice chair and chair nominations.
Do we have a vote on that? Yes, Frank.
I like Maria's idea, but based because we're so young and a lot of us just got on the bus, I think to compromise, we should have a list of who's qualified, who has served the term, instead of having everybody. Now you have a dedicated list of who has hit the mark and who has the experience versus who still has time left to mature. Just to settle the water with everybody. Does that make sense? For example, let's say Picasso, CAC, she has a attendance record of she's been more than a year, we can prove that. Versus, let's say with Maria, she just got in back a few months ago, does not have a year. But on the list it says, Lawson Picasso is a proper candidate for this position because she's hit the target mark. Versus Maria, she can hit her target mark at this time, at this date, because now she has a mature date now to be entered as a candidate. Does that make sense?
So you're asking to carry over the time of attendance from the CAC to this board?
Correct.
You're saying the tenure of prior CAC is synonymous with CIC, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That. Yes. We created a attendance roster of which
Guys, I
candidates
think
are
that's
available.
what Ashley was saying in her explanation. It absolutely is intended to carry over service from the CAC because it was just an amendment of their existing bylaws.
So basically, it was grandfathered in with the yearly requirement?
So your
Okay.
tenure is grandfathered in and counted as your 1 year. If you were already on the CAC and transitioned to the CIC, you need that 1 year to be chair.
That's reasonable.
Is that reasonable?
Do we need to vote on that or not? No, we don't. All right. Is there any other nominations for chair? Okay. All right, we have Lawson Picasso nominated for chair. The nominations for that office are closed. And are there any nominations for vice chair? Dr. Cantu?
I don't mind doing it, it's just that I have a problem with Wednesdays on January, February, and March. I'm sorry about that. I don't mind it, it's just that I have a scheduling conflict with Wednesdays from January to March.
And, okay. The
Now,
meetings
I don't know if that's something I don't know if it's in the bylaws that it has to be Wednesdays?
Yes.
That's- Okay. Yeah.
Any other nominations for chair? Vice chair, I mean?
I'd like to nominate Steve Bennett.
Bob, would somebody give Bob a mic, please?
I'd like to nominate Steve Bennett.
Steve Bonnet. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, well, okay, we're gonna close, okay. Okay, for the open position of chair, the nominee, Lawson Picasso. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there a voice count for that? Okay. All those opposed, say no. The chair recognizes that Lawson Picasso is elected as chair of the CPS Energy Citizens Input Committee for 2025. All right, there's no further nominations for vice chair. We have Dr. Adelita Cantu.
No,
No, you don't? Oh, Steve Bonnet, I'm sorry, Steve Bonnet has been, his name has been placed in the pool for vice chair. Any seconds? Nominations? That's it? A vote for Steve Bonnet for vice chair for 2025. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, the chair recognizes that Steve Bonnet is elected as vice chair of CPS Energy Citizens Input Committee for 2025. Yes?
And with respect to that, does Steve have the opportunity to decline at some point? I'm assuming he will prior to, okay, yes,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes,
that's
he
what I was-
does.
Yeah, I wasn't able to reach him, I'm sorry, I know he's out of town, but.
Yes, he's traveling.
Should he decline, then we'll hold a nomination for vice chair to fill that position. But in his stead, this is what happens when you miss meetings. You get volunteered to do things. So there you go. Don't miss meetings. Hand that back over to our current chair.
Knowing
Sorry,
Steve,
I
I'm
have a
sure he'll be
question.
fine with it.
Just,
but
just in
yes,
a
yes.
a comment. So, on the point of Steve being vice chair, he's also the chair of the subcommittee for power and technology. So he may not want to be the vice chair. Just bringing that up because he's already a subcommittee chair.
Okay, he will be given that option. Would they need to release their subcommittee chairs? Okay, then that's the situation. Like in no?
You can be a subcommittee chair. Matt says no.
Oh, okay, Matt says no.
You can serve.
Okay, good. All right, so the subcommittee chairs that have been nominated to the office can continue to serve as a subcommittee chair as well.
I plan to step down from the subcommittee chair role just to focus on the chair role so congratulations, Bob, you just got leveled up on subcommittee. So,
Merry Christmas.
yes, you just got elevated to subcommittee chair for business rates, because I did intend, I voluntold you. So, but just for the sake of, because the chair role, they're having to have your hand in all the pots, I want to make sure that I have that opportunity, so.
Okay, well, congratulations to Lawson and to our missing in action, Steve Bonnet, for next year's officers' positions. Anything else? Of course.
I do agree with Julian's comment that some of the bylaws will need to be reviewed, tailored can we put an action on it maybe for next year to look at that again as maybe a small group or individuals? Okay.
And I think some of the rules on, at least the way I see it, should be grandfathered in that respect.
I know that there are some plans for us to sit down as a committee to look at the current bylaws as they sit. We did those as red lines to the CAC bylaws, and there are some things that won't jive, but as Ashley pointed out, there is language in the bylaws as they sit that says that there will be a transition period, so we will be reviewing those.
Does anyone have anything else they want to bring?
Just to add to that, and that should be an ongoing process, Dr. Villarreal, right? The review of these bylaws will be an annual process. So we'll start that off next year and then get on a regular cadence on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Richard?
I had a quick question about your term, Diana, since one of the positions is immediate past
My
chair.
position, yes, is
Are
past
you
chair, and my term
limited?
is over, so District 3 will be looking for another representative within the district, so.
But within the bylaws, and I'm not familiar with this particular point at the moment, when the chair is termed out and the position of immediate past chair would not apply because you'll no longer be a member of the CIC, that position just becomes vacant, I would assume.
Actually, it was a question, and
Yeah.
Ashley can probably answer.
Be honest here. Everybody hear me? So we've been thinking about this as well too. So I think what would occur, it needs to be a conversation with the district representative, obviously, assuming certain things are met. It is very common on different boards that when you serve in an executive role to extend your terms can extend. I think the proper way to do that with this committee would be a resolution of the full committee saying, we see it as best interest of this committee to extend the term for another year. Should the chair want to do that? Should District 3 want to do that? Should other folks to serve in that immediate past chair role? Otherwise, this committee would not have an immediate past chair on the executive committee, or there might be another option about elevating a previous past chair, right, into that role. Different options we can consider on that. But that's something I think as a whole, as a committee, needs to make a decision on that and probably do it as a resolution because you're setting precedent for this, which is not in the bylaws. So any questions on that?
And I think in the past, like Bill Day from Frostbank, for instance, stayed until he needed to get off. So yes, we wouldn't let him go for that matter. And I think that has happened with previous chairs, beyond him. So I'll do whatever the committee needs me to do.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much.
Okay, if there's no other anything to be brought forth from the committee right now in the meeting, yes, Lawson.
So typically every year we have like a safety briefing, especially as we get into the holidays. So I just wanted to take an opportunity just to tell everybody just to be careful with the plugs and outlets because it is that we want to reduce the risk of fires. And then also I had heard from a friend of mine from American Red Cross that one of the most common ways to prevent a fire is to clean out the vent fan heater system in your restroom, which I had never done until this past weekend, and oh my God, I am surprised that we have not started a fire yet. So that was oddly satisfying to clean it. So I just want to kind of let everybody know, which I would hope all of us would be conscientious of that, but for the public as well, just the tidbit that as we get lit in our houses this holiday season, just to also be safe while plugging in all of those lights.
Okay, now a quick CPS announcement. There is a press conference at 10:30, so if anyone is interested in attending, it looks like our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.